Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and this is another Snap Judgment review, and a special one if I might add to that myself. Before we get into what is a Snap Judgment review. A Snap Judgment review is a review I do with only 5 to 10 hours of gameplay in the game. I'm trying to give you an idea whether you're going to enjoy it right off the bat or not. Unlike other reviews, which tend to have to do 100% or somewhere around there, they tend to forget things in the beginning, and they also tend to not give a good perspective for people who have only an hour to play here and there. So that's what I'm going to do here today. That, coupled with the fact that I think games are one of the most subjective forms of art, I will not be giving a score to this review. Instead, I will be telling you what the pros and cons are, in my point of view, as all reviews are. And then I'll be telling you whether I will be sticking with the game outside the purposes of it. But before that, I got to tell you what it is. It's Baldur's Gate 3. I have decided to jump into that one. I might be the last one to get on it. I know all the reviews are out and everybody's already talking about it, and there's tons of news here and there and everywhere. And but it's time for me to put in my 2 cents. And my 2 cents is going to be pretty good because this is shockingly good game, and I am getting really good feels for it. It doesn't mean it's without pros. It doesn't mean it's without cons. There's definitely there's things about it that I don't love, things about it that I absolutely hate, and things about it that I am surprised are there. So, Baldur's Gate, you play either a custom character or one of the origin characters that are pre-created for you. And right off the bat, you get a little mind flare worm in your head, and then you have to try and figure out how to get it out. I don't want to give you any more than that because everything else is spoiler territory, because everything I just said happens in the first 10 minutes of the game, so that's it. Let's instead talk about what this game is. It's a CRPG, but it's a very unique CRPG in the fact that it works 100% on D&D rules. It does have some little homebrews or some twists to make the video game part of it a little bit easy, even free up some character idea stuff, but overall, if you've played D&D, you know what you're getting into, wherein lies a little bit of a problem when we get into the cons, because if you don't play D&D, well, you might be a little bit in trouble. Combat will take place turn-based, real-time when you're walking around. There is a good controller interface for it, as well as mouse and keyboard, as all CRPGs have. You then can play nearly all of the base classes from actual Dungeons & Dragons, and just about all of the races as well, and any combination in between. It also adds in this kind of background thing, which is how your characters will get inspiration, which allows you to reroll skill checks later on. And then you get to go into the absolutely insane character creator as far as customizing what they look like, how they appear, what people reference them as, hell, penis size, it's in there. It is crazy in depth, and yeah, it's very good. And then you go into this thing and you just start getting involved in stuff. Again, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, so what I'm going to say is this game is about as close to the pen and paper role-playing game experience that I have ever seen in digital form. The amount of choice that you have is just crazy. And I actually was really nervous to get this because I'm a big Skyrim guy. With Skyrim, you have this big open world. You can run in any direction and find something to do. And I had read the reviews and kind of some of the plot synopsises for Baldur's Gate, and I knew that it wasn't necessarily huge. You kind of got into an area and you got to do that one thing, and then before you move on to another area. What's interesting here and how they give you that feel is that area is so utterly detailed and intricate, so utterly interesting that you don't necessarily need a really massive open world. It just gives you the true open world goal, which is choice, and that's what this game gives you. Do you want to play something charismatic and suave? You can do it. You want to talk your way out of things? You can do it. You want to go stealthy? You can do it. You want to go fighty? You can do it. You want to do magic? You can do it. There's a way to do everything in this game, and I have been utterly surprised by the level of choice that is possible in this game so far, and I definitely wanted to push it. I decided to play a gnome druid right off the bat. Now, it's like a magic user right off the bat, who is a gnome, who's small. I'm definitely going to get killed right away. Did not get killed right away, and am having a ton of fun with it. I also am surprised by the amount of things that my character can actually turn into. I was expecting it like, well, you could turn into a bear, and you could turn into a wolf. No. I could turn into a bear, a badger, a wolf, a cat, a giant spider. The list goes on. It's kind of crazy the amount of choice you get, which we'll talk about in the cons, but just absolutely insane. And like I said, this is not going to be a super long review because usually I go much more into the storyline of the game, but I don't want to do that here because discovering this game is really part of the magic of it. But just to give you some examples of the level of detail. My character's a druid. He has a power that allows him to talk to animals, or a spell. I thought this would be something that you used in combat to kind of talk animals down from attacking you, or maybe there were certain key animals that you could, use that on to talk to. No, my friends. You can talk to every animal once you have that on. Every animal has something to say, some weird thing to say to you. There's something about it. That there's a whole conversation to be had with every animal in the game. That means they didn't just do the voice acting for all the characters. They did all the voice acting for all the animals in the game, just in case somebody had this spell. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. I'm also going to tell a story, which I recently told on our podcast, so you're probably going to hear it twice if you listen to both. Nonetheless, it's one of the game's one of my examples of what I think of how good the detail in this game is. I wandered into an area where these 3 harpies were trying to lure a child in to eat it. Right? I just wandered in there. I wasn't ready for the fight. So right off the bat, it's kind of this desperate fight where I'm fighting over-leveled characters. But what's cool is you hear the song right off the bat when you start to move in. And then in the battle, when they're singing, you could still hear the song. And they'll start to lure your characters too. But I focused on the one that was singing, and I made them stop singing. They lost concentration. The minute they stopped singing, the music flowed perfectly into the actual battle music, and sure enough, 2 turns later, with one of the other harpies started singing, it shifted back to the song. It's that kind of stuff that's just like everything you think could have an effect has an effect. Everything you think you can do, you can do. And I think that is just, it's absolutely insane, the level of detail that you can have here. Plus, the game remembers things you did in really amazing ways. Like, I have yet to find in 7 hours of play a continuity break. And what I'm talking about in a continuity break is often in open world games or even role-playing games like this, you'll do a task over here, and then person A over here should know about said task, but doesn't respond to it or reference it at all. In this, everybody references it. Everybody knows you did it because they would. I saved a little girl. Again, don't want to give spoilers, but I saved a little girl from a certain person. And I thought, okay, that's cool. Their parents will remember. And of course the parents remembered. That's how I finished the quest. But then every other character who knew about that situation logically referenced it and said, hey, thanks for saving that girl. Like, your choices in the game, at the very least, feel impactful. And I'm not talking about just your choices like Mass Effect style. I'm talking about every action you take. I have never had a game where I've been more interested in talking to the townspeople than actually going out and fighting. And I'm going to say right now, I have way more fun talking to the people than actually getting into fights, and that has never happened to me in the history of my gaming experience. I mean, I've definitely enjoyed talking to people. I'm not going to say I don't, but as far as the action goes, I'm always more into the action than the talking. This one, I just want to meet everybody. I want to talk to every little animal. I want to see what happens. I had to do a whole barter deal with a squirrel because it got mad at me because I could speak its language. I thought I was going to steal its nuts. Like, crazy in detail stuff like that just happens in this game, and it's absolutely phenomenal. I have not seen a game crafted this well in 10 years, at least at this particular point. I've heard that there are some bugs in Act 3. I haven't gotten there yet. And I know that there are definitely some bugs on the split screen stuff. We'll talk in the cons, mainly because my podcast partner bought it specifically to play on split screen and has noticed a lot of chugging and stuff. But other than that, it's just absolutely phenomenal, the kind of stuff that you can do in this game, and I think it's great. And again, the reason I don't want to give the spoilers on this is because to tell you exactly what I went through would give you a hint of what to go through when you did it, and I really want you to be able to discover those choices on your own, because this game does it amazing. This game is truly giving me Skyrim vibes, to the point where I feel, and this is early, we're in the honeymoon phase, but I feel like I'm going to be playing this game for years and years and years and years and years to come, and I was never even going to buy it, honestly. And now, here we are. So let's get into the pros and cons. Pro, number one. I always like to start positive. Characters. The character creators in this is second to none. I already kind of talked about it in the beginning. The ability to make anything you want is right there, especially within the D&D rules. Plus, it gives you unparalleled freedom about multi-classing, everything. Everything you can do, create kind of in D&D, at least at a basic level, you can do here. I think that is really cool and interesting. I loved when I was creating the character, I love a good character creator, but this character creator was actually inspiring me to come up with a backstory for my character, like getting into that mindset of it, and it's really cool. One of our people here, the Build Master General Philbilly330, is very into this game, and he says he has restart syndrome, where he keeps making new characters and never getting to the Act 3, which I could totally see happening. I made like 10 or 11 characters in Skyrim before I ever actually got to the main quest. Feel like because it had a good character creator, and this one blows that one away, in my opinion. I think it's just so interesting and so cool on how they do stuff, which I really love it. My next pro, obviously, is the detail. I've already talked about this a little bit. Just the level of detail in this game is just second to none. I've never seen the level of interactivity that the game has with the player. And it's just really cool to be able to do some of the stuff that they have here. My third pro is got to be the voice acting is phenomenal, and not just for everybody else, but also for your character. Granted, a lot of your lines are just kind of inferred, but you do have voice acting when he's just kind of like walking around, and he sounds great. Well, at least he for me. It could be a girl for you, or a non-binary, whatever the case may be. Whatever voice you choose, they deliver their lines really well and cool. I think all of the other characters are really cool as well. None so much as Amelia Tyler, who actually plays the narrator's voice. They actually have this kind of disembodied dungeon master voice whenever you're interacting with stuff that isn't necessarily going to talk back to you. And she's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. When she's talking about like what you're feeling or what you're going through, she just nailed it spot on the head. And yeah, it's just really cool. I think that's going to dovetail right into the actual NPCs, which are also my another pro. And I want to go into the NPCs even more because they're all so fleshed out and cool. And by NPCs, I'm not even just talking about the people you meet in the world, who are also fleshed out and cool, but the people you can romance and put in your parties. They're all really cool. And what I find interesting is just talking to people and who they hate and who they don't like. So many times I see in games where people will be like, oh, I don't use them because of this power, but that's it. With this one, like, people have like visceral hatred for like certain people. My podcast co-host hates Shadowheart, just hates her, whereas Philbilly's characters, like, it's one of his favorite characters. And then I personally find Astarion really fun. Like, he's a jerk. I'm not going to say he's not, but he just feels like a David Bowie character come to life, and I just love him and his really flamboyant way of talking. He's just so much fun. And I love those kind of can you trust him or not characters. Whereas Phil can't stand him and tries to get rid of him first chance he gets, which is going to make when we decide to do a Let's Play together very interesting. I think what else is cool is a lot of the characters have choices that you can make where you never get them in your party. You never even have them as a friend. Astarion, right off the bat, you can kill him in the first meeting that you have with him. And then you can, again, kill him or throw him out later when you find something out about him, which is very interesting. The same thing goes for Shadowheart. You find her in a pod and you're with another character who's kind of trying to get you to move on because you have limited time. And you could just move right past her and not see her. What's also kind of interesting is when these characters, when you do miss out on them, a lot of times they'll appear later in the game in different spots, like they also have their lives to live and they're moving on. Contextually, this game is just so interesting on how it plays, and the character stuff is just phenomenal. I love the fact that people have such an interesting reaction to characters. It's more like they don't like them as people, and that's how you know you have great NPC work, when people are actually making judgments on the character of the NPCs. You know, there's this whole fight, a few whole fights in the on the Reddit boards and everything about certain characters where, like, Laziel, a lot of people will be like, oh, she's too annoying, and then there'll be other characters who are like, oh no, she's perfect. You know, and I just think it's so interesting that you have such visceral arguments about the characters of people who are fictional. That's how you know you've done something absolutely amazing with your game, because people can literally get that upset and have an argument about whether this person is an asshole or not when they're not real. They're just ones and numbers, and it's phenomenal. The game is absolutely phenomenal in that area. Let's hit some cons, though. Got to do some negativity, because there are some things I absolutely hate about this game. And I know a lot of people out there who listen to the TTRPG side are probably thinking to themselves, he's going to hate that it's D&D. I don't hate that it's D&D. I think D&D works better in a video game than it does as a tabletop role-playing game. So I don't hate that. What I do hate about this is the lack of tutorials, and this is going to be my biggest con. I knew going into this that I was not going to understand what I was doing because it's a Dungeons & Dragons system. I also knew that I have played CRPGs, but I am not an expert by any means. In fact, usually I end up trying to play it with Phil, who plays everything on hard, and just getting him killed and feeling like an asshole. So I was not expecting to know what the fuck I was doing in this. So I definitely put on game hints and tutorial, all those little checkboxes. And unfortunately, they still don't tell you anything. I spend hours in the menus trying to figure stuff out, and now I've kind of got it to a point where I think I know what I'm doing, but there are still things going off that I just don't understand, like concentration, when they lose it, when they have it. I also don't like that, like, I have a bonus action, so I cast a spell, and then I have a bonus action next round, and I cast a spell, and for whatever reason I lose the first spell, but it doesn't really state to me, hey, this lasts for so many rounds or whatever. There is a lack of communication here, and I think it comes from the level of stuff you could do in the game, that it's very hard to convey everything you can do in a smart, logical, but also condensed version. Nonetheless, if you are a person out there who wants to try this, who hasn't played Dungeons & Dragons in any way, shape, or form, even if you've played other CRPGs, you are in for a learning curve. Biggest example I give to everybody, most CRPGs have action points for your characters, meaning this character has these action points and these actions take up an action point, and then these actions don't. In Dungeons & Dragons, it doesn't work that way. You have a movement action, which you get every turn, you have a normal action, which you get every turn, and then you have a bonus action, which you get every turn. The bonus action is like a half action, and only certain actions apply there. The actual action is like a full-fledged action, and you can only do one of those, but you don't get like more or less. There's no action points where I can go move. No. This is how much you can move, this is where you can act, and this is where you can't. Like, right off the bat, that was a huge change for me, and I was trying to figure things out and just could not understand that. I will say Playing on the controller was helpful to me. I probably should have put this in the pros, but I actually thought that the way the controller plays in the game was actually way better than mouse and keyboard, and I usually play games like this on mouse and keyboard, but I actually found the controller, because it actually switches the way you interact with it totally, so like, and it conveys the information more simpler to you. Instead of just a bar at the bottom that you can click with little icons all over the place, with the controller I almost felt like, okay, some of these are highlighted in green, some of them are highlighted in orange. I can click through them with this. Also, movement was so much easier with the analog. I actually really enjoyed the controller play, which I wasn't expecting. And it actually helped me figure out some of the stuff I wasn't getting. It's the biggest problem, I think, in my opinion, that this game faces, is it has so much going on, it just doesn't tell you everything, and I am still figuring things out. 7 hours in, and half of the status effects I don't even understand. There was one time where I dazed a guy. I hit a guy with a move that dazed them. It clearly worked, and I thought to myself, now my other character can move away without incurring an attack of opportunity. But that's not true, and I found out later it's because daze just hurts their wisdom saving throws, and their wisdom score, and then it also hurts action, like movement points, but it doesn't hurt their ability to attack you opportunity wise. So like stuff like that, they don't tell you, and I kind of get why they don't, but at the same time it's got to be a con I point out. I do also want to say, everybody knows on this channel, if you've been listening for a long time, I like interactive cutscenes. I don't like extraneous cutscenes. If I want to watch a movie, I will watch a movie. That's what I like. For the most part, in the 7 hours that I've played Baldur's Gate, most all of the cutscenes are quick, to the point, and you are interacting with them in some way, shape, or form with a dialogue option or something. However, the opening of the game, very long-winded, huge action scenes that have nothing really to do with your character on a whole, and it was a lot of watching, and I'm not going to lie, I got a little morally hurt, because I had spent a lot of money on it. I was like, oh no, this is going to be a cutscene game. I can't do a cutscene game. And I don't know if you guys out there can. Some of you like cutscenes, but for me, like I said, I get an hour or two here and there to play. I don't want to waste it on cutscenes, no matter how good the cutscenes are. I want to be playing. Overall, though, like I said, I haven't noticed any more cutscenes. It's really just the opening, and I can kind of forgive them for that, but I feel like mentioning it just because if you are like me, you're going to feel like, oh no, I've bought a game with heavy cutscenes, and that's just not true. You're just going to deal with the first one, at least so far. I'm sure there's a couple other big ones later on, but so far, it's just the first big one, and then everything else is pretty interactable. Alright, last con. The reason I got to shout this out is I've shouted out every game that has had this, so I have to shout it out. I want to say ahead of time, I understand why it's this way, but again, it's 160-some gigs on your computer, on a PC, okay? I can only imagine it's pretty freaking huge on the consoles as well. Computer usually, it's a bigger thing, but still, it is a huge game. It is Starfield level big. It is going to eat your hard drive and ask for seconds, and I hate that. I understand why it's that way. This game is huge. Honestly, the fact that this game exists and does what it does blows my mind. But still, that is an astronomical. I had to move stuff around to even get it on my hard drive in the first place, and now it's on there, and I want to keep it on there, and I don't know how I'm going to keep it on there, because other games are going to come out. I'm going to run out of space so fast. It's insanely huge, and it requires an SSD, which is just yeesh, people, yeesh. Final con comes from Neil. I gotta point it out. The split screen is pretty rough for him on PlayStation 5. This is not the overall multiplayer. I want to make that very clear. Like the The online multiplayer does not seem to have any problems. At least I know Philbilly's played it and hasn't had any issues on the online multiplayer, so I don't think that's an issue. However, the split screen, things really chug. But when you really think about what you can do in split screen, because it's basically playing the game twice. So I kind of see why it's chugging. And I'm going to kind of give them a pass, but I got to point it out again. It's a con. It chugs. It is. It is what it is. But again, to sit down on the couch and be able to play this game with somebody else in the fashion that you can, because both characters can romance two different people, completely separate. They can have completely their own stories. They don't even have to talk to the other people that the person's playing. Like, when you consider the level of the stuff that it's doing in co-op, I kind of get why it chugs. But it does chug. I gotta mention it. So, whether or not I'm going to stick with it, I think you guys know the answer. I'm definitely sticking with this. It's a game I think about when I'm not playing it, and I know that one of our listeners out there, that's all he wants in a game, and I agree with that. Like, when a game can make me think about the video game when I'm not on it, that is a true achievement. I really am getting those Skyrim vibes from this for me. I think this is a game I'm going to be playing for many years to come. I think I'm going to have a ton of characters in this game, and I really think at the end of the day, this is going to go down in history as one of the greatest games ever made. And I also want to just give a quick shout out to Larian. They took a lot of crap from a lot of other companies that said that, like, basically their game was too good. I love what they've done here. I love that an independent studio, no matter how much money they have, they're an independent studio that did not have that kind of money when they started this thing. And they have made easily the best game this year, and I think that, like, that is an accomplishment. They have changed the status quo and really stuck it to the man when it comes to the big companies, and for that I applaud you, Larian. So, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Let me know in the comments below. You can also contact me on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. Influence this in all of our shows from there. As long as you guys keep watching and listening, I'll keep making them. See you guys next time.